And that is what set Monroe at variance with the Congress. If you know his history, he spent his entire life fighting the Congress over that issue. Nothing has changed. The Constitution of the United States is immutable. I violently disagree with Justice Ginsburg, who says the Constitution is flexible. The Constitution is not flexible. Our founding fathers meant it to be an immutable document that would stand the test of the ages of time and foil people like William Jefferson Clinton and Roosevelt and every other dictator that is going to follow, unless we stand up and take back our states' rights.
Dictators disarm populations before enslaving them. One of Hitler's first actions was to disarm the German population. For example, the Nazi weapons law of November 11, 1938, prohibited Jews from acquiring, possessing, and carrying firearms and ammunition, as well as truncheons or stabbing weapons. In October 1918, the Council of People's Commissars in the Communist Russian Republic ordered the citizens to surrender all firearms, ammunition, and sabers, having first mandated registration of all weapons 6 months earlier. Just like the Nazis, Communist Party members were exempt from the ban. A 1920 decree then imposed a minimum 6-month prison sentence for any non-communist possessing a weapon. After the Civil War, possession became punishable with 3 months hard labor plus fines. After Stalin came to power, he made possession of unlawful firearms a crime punishable by death. Gun confiscation, FEMA camps, drones, kill lists, Obamacare, the Monsanto Act, engineered financial collapses, PSYOPs. Armenians killed 1 to 1.5 million. Perpetrator, the government, the Ottoman Turkey. 43 million anti-communist, anti-Stalinist killed. Perpetrator, government, Soviet Union under Stalin. 13 million Jews, Gypsies, and anti-Nazis killed. Perpetrator, government, Nazi Germany and occupied Europe. China's government killed 200 million anti-communists, rural population, and pro-reform. Guatemala, 100,000 Mayan Indians died. Perpetrator, the government laws Decree 36 and Decree 283. Cambodia, 1.7 million educated persons killed. But how do they do it? Their first weapon is lies and deceit.
It was time for Hitler to put his plan into action. And what was he waiting for? He was waiting to soften up his victims, keep them from uniting. For the softening up process, he sent his agents all over the world disguised as tourists, students, and commercial travelers. Payoff men like Ribbentrop came too, to bribe, threaten, and form local fascist parties such as de Grelle and his Rexist party in Belgium, Henlein in Czechoslovakia, Seyss-Inquart and his National Socialists in Austria. In Britain, Sir Oswald Mosley offered himself to the people as a Hitler with an Oxford accent. In other words, I'm told. had his Siegfried line. He had his equipment. He had his army. Now to unveil the German might and terrorize his victims into submission. General staffs all over the world anxiously awaited the report of their military attachés. A would-be peaceful world learned that a vast military power had materialized out of nowhere. A power controlled by one man who tore up treaties as we tear up ticker tape. The fire that had begun in Manchuria and spread through China and Ethiopia and Spain would now blaze around the world. This man made that decision. War. Precisely at dawn on September 1st, without warning, the German Wehrmacht rolled over the Polish border. Before the invasion was 30 minutes old, the planes of the Luftwaffe were over Poland, wiping out the Polish Air Force, most of it caught flat-footed on the ground.
They touch. Bombs away. These things the Poles can never forget, including another one of Hitler's famous promises. Germany has concluded a non-aggression pact with Poland. We shall adhere to it unconditionally. The world now knew that a non-aggression pact with Hitler was the kiss of death.
Why Clinton is telling everybody he's the commander-in-chief, it's not out of ignorance, as I pointed out to Colonel North in my facts. It's a deliberate, carefully crafted plan to get the people of the United States used to the idea that he is actually the commander-in-chief. And the Constitution says he is not, and I can give you chapter and verse. Because should there a time come when he wants to take some drastic kind of action, he can then get Congress, controlled by the Democrats, to give him the power of suspension of habeas corpus, and can say, as Commander-in-Chief of the United States Armed Forces, I hereby order XYZ to happen. It is a deadly danger, and we are fast asleep.
Who are these men, causing wars and havoc all over the planet? In World War II alone, over 60 million people were killed, over 2.5% of the world population. These warmongers are conquering and policing countries without due process. Arguably, the most advanced, the US forces, engage in illegal wars and other spurious activities, such as watching over the poppy fields in Afghanistan. fields that since its conquering have risen to producing 90% of the world's heroin supply. The NDAA says that the U.S. military has the power to detain Americans suspected of involvement in terrorism without charge or trial and imprison them indefinitely. The Department of Homeland Security has now acquired more than 2 billion bullets, presumably for use in the homeland in the United States. Most of them are the more expensive and devastating hollow points, illegal under the Hague Convention. Nearly 3,000 mine-resistant tanks were bought to patrol American streets. War veterans back on American soil are being persecuted as potential terrorists.
Drone flying around taking pictures of people. This is unbelievable. I'm sure you guys were already taking footage of this,
That's
but
right.
Wow, man. And I'm sure that there's only non-lethal weaponry aboard. It's probably just, tasers and yeah.
Well, the FAA just announced that by the year 2020 that they expect that there will be over 30,000 drones patrolling U.S. airways.
It's sad and unfortunate.
You must remember, dear people of America, that whenever government wants you to think and act in a certain way that would bring justification to an action that they are already planning to make, they must make the person that they hate a boogeyman. Now, nobody wants civil war. It is the bloodiest of all kinds of wars because you're fighting your own brothers. You're fighting the people of your own language and culture and history. So in every nation, brothers and sisters, there is dissatisfaction. And what the CIA does is go into a country and move among the people that are dissatisfied to stimulate a revolt against a leader that they don't like because they want regime change. Congress, the Congress of the United States, voted to spend $150 million to replace the government in Iran that America doesn't like. So they send their agents in to work among the dissatisfied. So when they had this election and the people in Iran rose up, they have legitimate grievances, all right, but stimulated from the outside. So President Obama didn't want to put his foot into that cage lest somebody say America inspired it, because it was America's policy to destabilize that government. Well, what about Libya? See, how much money is being spent to arm the so-called rebels? They're dissatisfied. Well, what is their dissatisfaction about? Do they have jobs? Yes. Do they have food? Yes. Has Gaddafi used the oil money to build Libya? Yes. Did Gaddafi use oil money and discover water under the Sahara Desert?
As President Obama also said, we have every reason to fear that left unchecked, Gaddafi will commit unspeakable atrocities. It is against that backdrop that nations from across the region and the world met today here in Paris to discuss the ways we can, working together, implement Resolution 1973. We all recognize that further delay will only put more civilians at risk. So let me be very clear about the position of the United States.